In 1990, I convinced NASA to do something that seemed utterly pointless, and the request was simple enough that it almost got dismissed outright. Voyager 1 was hurtling toward the edge of our solar system, 4 billion miles from home, with its primary mission already complete. What I asked them to do was turn the spacecraft around and photograph Earth, a tiny world that would appear as less than a single pixel in the resulting image. Engineers worried about damaging the cameras by pointing them toward the sun, and mission planners questioned whether there was any scientific value in capturing something so small it would barely register at all. The point was perspective, and when that image arrived, what we came to call the pale blue dot, it changed how millions of people think about human existence. Almost all of them drew the wrong conclusion from what they saw. They looked at that pixel, that mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam, and felt the weight of cosmic insignificance crushing down on them. The conclusion seemed obvious and even reasonable on its face, that we are tiny and brief and amount to nothing in the grand scheme. The universe is vast and ancient and utterly indifferent to whether we exist at all. And that's where almost everyone goes wrong, because they stop there. They accept this cosmic arithmetic as the final word on human meaning, and in doing so, they miss something extraordinary, something that transforms the very question they thought they were answering. For most of human history, we believed we stood at the center of everything, with the Earth fixed and immovable, while crystalline spheres carried the sun, moon, planets, and stars in perfect circles around us. This wasn't arrogance dressed as astronomy, but rather the obvious interpretation of what our eyes told us every single day. We saw the sun rise and set, we felt no motion beneath our feet, and the cosmos appeared to revolve around our world because, from where we stood, it genuinely looked that way. Then came what I think of as the Great Demotions, a series of discoveries that systematically removed us from any privileged position. Copernicus removed Earth from the center of the solar system, revealing that we weren't the hub of creation, but just another planet circling an ordinary star. Darwin showed us we weren't specially created in our present form, but evolved from earlier life, connected by an unbroken thread of ancestry to every creature that ever lived, including creatures we might find repulsive or insignificant. Edwin Hubble revealed that our sun was merely one among hundreds of billions of stars in the Milky Way galaxy, which itself was just one galaxy among hundreds of billions of others scattered across an expanding universe. Each discovery seemed to diminish us further, pushing humanity away from any cosmic spotlight, and many intelligent and thoughtful people looked at this trajectory and concluded that science had delivered a verdict. We don't matter, they decided, because we're accidents of chemistry on an unremarkable rock orbiting an unremarkable star in the unfashionable outskirts of an unremarkable galaxy. This became the sophisticated, modern, scientifically informed position. The idea that we had been humbled by astronomy and stripped of our pretensions and forced to confront our own cosmic insignificance. But this interpretation commits a deep error that becomes obvious once you examine it closely. Think about what you're actually claiming when you equate size with significance, because you're using a measuring stick that makes no sense upon examination. By that logic, a whale is more significant than a human child. A mountain possesses more meaning than the Mona Lisa. And Jupiter, that bloated ball of gas, matters more than Shakespeare's collected works. The logic reduces to absurdity almost immediately when you follow it to its natural conclusions. The nihilistic response to cosmic scale is, in its own way, as provincial as the geocentric view it replaced. Both perspectives assume the universe should care about what we care about, that significance is something written into the fabric of reality and waiting to be read. The old view found that significance and placed us at its center, while the new view looked for it, found nothing, and declared us meaningless. Both are asking the wrong question entirely. When I was working on Cosmos at Cornell, I spent years thinking about how to convey the true relationship between humanity and the universe, a relationship far stranger and more wonderful than either cosmic arrogance or cosmic nihilism suggests. The answer required understanding what we actually are at the most fundamental level. Consider what had to happen for that pale blue dot photograph to exist in the first place. 4.5 billion years ago, a cloud of hydrogen and helium and heavier elements began to collapse under its own gravity. And those heavier elements had been forged in the cores of stars that lived and died before our sun was born. At the center of this swirling disk, temperatures and pressures rose until hydrogen atoms fused into helium, and our star ignited for the first time. The leftover material continued orbiting, with particles colliding and accreting and gradually assembling into planetesimals, then protoplanets, then the worlds we know today. Earth coalesced in what we call the habitable zone, the narrow region where temperatures allow water to exist as liquid. And this was not destiny, but circumstance. That circumstance proved consequential in ways nothing could have predicted. Over hundreds of millions of years, the chemistry of our young planet grew increasingly complex, and in warm pools or around hydrothermal vents or in places we haven't yet identified, molecules began organizing themselves into patterns capable of self-replication. This was not yet life as we understand it, but it was the foundation from which everything else would emerge. Simple became complex, and complex became more complex still, until single cells developed, and some of those cells began cooperating to form multicellular organisms. Creatures emerged from the seas and colonized the land. Dinosaurs rose and then fell 66 million years ago, and mammals diversified into the niches left vacant. Primates developed over tens of millions of years, and then, in the last few 100,000 years, a cosmic eye blink that barely registers on the universal timescale, one species emerged with an astonishing capacity, the capacity to ask questions about its own existence. We are that species. And here's the fact that should restructure how you see everything. We are not observers of the universe, and we are not separate from it, looking in from outside like spectators at some grand performance. The atoms in your body, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the phosphorus that allows your thoughts to spark across neural pathways, all of it was manufactured in the thermonuclear furnaces of ancient stars. When those stars exhausted their fuel and exploded as supernovae, they scattered these heavy elements across space, seeding the clouds that would eventually form new solar systems, new planets, new possibilities. You are not merely in the universe, but made of it, and in the most literal and precise sense, you are the universe examining itself. That statement deserves repetition because I want you to feel the full weight of it. This is not poetry, and this is not metaphor, because this is physics. Through your eyes, the cosmos looks upon itself, and through your thoughts, the universe attempts to comprehend its own structure and origin. Through your wonder, existence experiences something it could never experience without you, which is the capacity for awe. The universe is under no obligation to make sense to us, as I've often said, but we are under an obligation to make sense of it, and we have done exactly that against all odds. These small creatures in a tiny world have decoded the laws governing everything from quarks to quasars. We have read the language of heredity written in the double helix of DNA. We have detected gravitational waves rippling across space-time from colliding black holes over 1 billion light years away, and we have peered back to within moments of the Big Bang itself, capturing in the cosmic microwave background radiation the faint afterglow of creation. Here is the pattern interrupt that almost no one talks about, the insight that should stop you in your tracks and make you reconsider everything. A being less than 2 meters tall has comprehended processes spanning billions of light years and billions of years, and if significance is measured by the ratio of understanding to physical size, we may be among the most significant configurations of matter in the known universe. You are not just star stuff, because rocks are star stuff, comets are star stuff, and the rings of Saturn are star stuff. What makes you different is organization, the particular arrangement of those atoms into patterns of staggering complexity, patterns capable of contemplating their own existence. That arrangement, that recursive self-awareness, appears to be extraordinarily rare across the cosmos. It may be vanishingly rare, and though we do not yet know for certain, it may be unique in all of existence. Think about what that implies for the question we started with, because the universe, for all its grandeur, cannot wonder about itself. A galaxy cannot contemplate its own spiral structure. A star cannot appreciate the light it generates. And a nebula, beautiful as it appears to our eyes, experiences nothing of its own beauty. Only we can do these things, and only we, fragile and ephemeral and confined to a pale blue pixel, have developed the capacity for wonder, for inquiry, for understanding, for meaning. If meaning exists anywhere in the universe, it exists here, in us, in our questions and discoveries, our art and science, our love and grief and hope. But here's where it gets more complicated, because there is a fourth demotion we chose ourselves, one that came not from telescopes or fossil records, but from our own ingenuity turned dangerous. In the 20th century, we developed the capacity to destroy ourselves entirely. Nuclear winter could render our planet uninhabitable, and we are altering the chemistry of Earth's atmosphere right now, conducting an uncontrolled experiment on the only home our species has ever known. For the first time in 4 billion years of life on Earth, we have become a species capable of ending its own story. This fourth demotion did not humble us in the same way as the others, because it obligated us instead. The old cosmic arrogance, the belief that we are the center and purpose of creation, was dangerous because it bred complacency. the assumption that if God made the universe for us, surely God will preserve us no matter what we do. But the newer cosmic nihilism is equally dangerous in its own way. If nothing matters, why bother with anything at all? Why work to preserve our species, our planet, our hard-won knowledge? Why not take what we can and let the future fend for itself? Both views are wrong, and both are dangerous for different reasons. The truth is something far more demanding than either position allows. We are rare, we are precious, and we are responsible for what happens next. The cosmos has produced in us something extraordinary, a way to know itself, and that knowledge comes with obligations we cannot escape. Astronauts who have seen Earth from orbit describe something called the overview effect, a cognitive shift, a sudden recognition that the boundaries we fight over are invisible from space, that the atmosphere protecting us is tissue thin, that we are all crew members on a single spacecraft called Earth. This perspective is not diminishing but clarifying, and it does not make us feel insignificant. Instead, it makes us feel connected to each other and to the 4 billion years of life that preceded us. Every child who gazes up at the night sky and asks what stars are participates in an ancient tradition that stretches back to the beginning of human consciousness. That same question was asked by our ancestors on the African savannah, by Greek philosophers debating under Mediterranean skies, by Islamic astronomers in medieval Baghdad charting the heavens with unprecedented precision. The question endures because it matters, not to the universe, which asks nothing and answers nothing, but to us. And we are the only beings around to do the asking. When I think about human significance, I don't think about our size or our duration or our position in space. What I think about is what we do with our brief time in the light. I think about the Voyager golden record sailing through interstellar darkness, carrying the sounds of Earth, whale songs, human greetings in 55 languages, music from Bach to Blind, Willie Johnson, a message in a bottle cast into the cosmic ocean with no guarantee anyone will ever find it. I think about the James Webb Space Telescope, gazing back toward the birth of galaxies, extending human vision to the edge of the observable universe. And I think about the simple fact that we chose to do these things when we didn't have to, because no cosmic law required us to explore, to wonder, to reach beyond our world. We could become the ancestors of beings who live among the stars, and we could be the founders of a civilization spanning galaxies, carrying the torch of consciousness to places we cannot yet imagine. Or we could destroy ourselves in the coming century, extinguishing the only known flame of awareness in this region of space. The choice is genuinely ours to make, and no one else will make it for us. Here is what everyone gets wrong about human significance, and it's a mistake that seems obvious once you see it clearly. They assume significance is something that exists out there, waiting to be discovered or bestowed, like a grade on a cosmic report card. They look at the vastness of space and conclude we have failed some test of size, or they cling to ancient texts and insist we must be important because something out there decreed it so. Both approaches miss the point entirely. Significance is not given but made. It is made through inquiry and creation, through compassion and connection, through the endless, stubborn, magnificent effort to understand. We are the meaning makers and the significance generators. In a universe that appears indifferent to meaning, we create it ourselves. And that creation, that act of wresting meaning from the void, is itself the most complete answer to the question of our significance. We matter because we ask whether we matter. We are significant because we wonder about significance. The question contains its own answer if you're willing to see it. Look up at the night sky one more time with all of this in mind. Those points of light are suns, some larger than our own, some smaller, many perhaps orbited by worlds we will never see. On some of those worlds, there may be beings looking back, asking the same questions we ask. Or perhaps we are alone, the only minds in all this immensity, the only witnesses to cosmic beauty, the only ones who have ever wondered about any of it. Either way, something is happening here that did not happen for the first 10 billion years of cosmic history, something that may not happen for the next 10 billion years if we are careless with what we've been given. The universe has grown eyes, and it has developed the capacity for wonder for the first time. Whether it keeps them is up to us.